I just want readers to be entertained.
Mhm.
And that is I mean, I know that sounds like a very general thing, but it's incredibly important to me if somebody's going to pick up one of my books that they feel like that they've been entertained. If they get something a little deeper out of it, that's a bonus. So for me, that's my goal.
Hello, I'm Derek Cash with the North Little Rock Public Library System and want to welcome you to Meet the Author. Joining us today is USA Today best-selling author Kathleen Fuller to discuss the excitement and charm of romance in her book, The Courtship Plan. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Well, it's a pleasure, and so let's go ahead and get started. First thing I want to ask you, Kathleen, and you can call me Derek, of course,
Okay.
what inspired you to write The Courtship Plan?
Well, I have been writing Amish fiction since 2006. And a lot of my books are set in a fictional town called Birch Creek. There's, I think, 15 books in that series. And so by the time I was writing the courtship plan, me and my publisher decided to move it to a new um, fictional town that was right next door. And so that was the inspiration for the setting of it. But interestingly enough, the inspiration for the story came from the title, and the title was suggested to me by my editor, and I thought it was really great. As a matter of fact, had already started the book, and then she suggested that title. I was like, oh, I love that. I'm going to write something different. So, and that's pretty much the first time a title has inspired me like that.
Well, that's an interesting way of coming up with everything that you've done. So
Mhm.
I don't, congratulations is not the appropriate word, but for lack of a better
Thank you.
word, good for you. Yes.
Thank you.
hmm I want to ask you a question that I don't know because I've not done the research. Are you Amish by denomination, or how did you decide on this situation using Amish?
hmm So, I used to live in Ohio. I grew up in Little Rock, and then my husband and I got married in 1993. I have to remember that back that far. And then right after that, we moved to Cleveland, Ohio. And we lived on the west side, and then we moved to the east side in 2001. And that is Geneva. And Geneva is close to Middlefield, which is the fourth largest Amish community in the world. And so, about the mid 2000s, my agent asked me if I'd be interested in writing Amish. And at the time, my husband and I had a subsistence farm. We were, we were raising cattle and chickens and pigs, and so we had kind of an interest in the farming life anyway. And I said, sure, I would be very interested in that. And being from Arkansas, I had never, when we first moved to Ohio and I saw Amish for the first time, it was very, I don't want to say jarring, it was really interesting.
Mhm.
So I was already piqued, my interest was piqued there. So I went to Middlefield. I talked to one of the librarians at the Middlefield Library, and he got me in touch with an Amish woman, and we became friends. And she helped me a lot with my research. And I published my first Amish book, I believe, in 2005. And I've been writing them ever since.
Mhm. What has been the reaction to this book, especially among the Amish?
I don't know about this book in particular,
hmm
but I do know I've done book signings in Amish country, I've done events in Amish country, and there's always a few Amish ladies that will come and say, oh, I've read your books, or, I'm here to get my book signed. I think overall, for me, the response has been very quiet on their end, but that's not atypical because
Okay.
they are a very quiet people.
Mhm.
So I'm always excited if I go to Amish country and I find someone who's Amish and she's read my books and enjoyed it. But I know they are voracious readers and they do read Amish fiction. So it's definitely, they don't use computers, and nobody really writes letters to the authors anymore. So it's kind of difficult to gauge it, but that's pretty much it's been positive overall.
This is just a general question for the audience, but
hmm
who are the Amish?
Who are the okay? Wow, you know what? Nobody's ever asked me that question. That is a good one though.
hmm
Well, the Amish are they're Anabaptists, And I'm honestly, this has taken me, I've got to think about it a little bit. It's been a while since I've done that kind of research.
Mhm.
But basically, they were being persecuted in Switzerland and Germany. And so in the 1800s, they came here, much like the Puritans left
Mhm.
Europe. And they settled in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, in that area. And they take be fruitful and multiply very seriously. So
Mhm.
as the population grew, they started heading west. And so in Ohio, the largest Amish population is there in Holmes County. So there's a lot of Amish in Ohio, a lot in Pennsylvania, um, New York. There's even some all the way out in Colorado. In Arkansas, we have some here. I haven't had a chance to really do any research on them, but so yeah, they started out fleeing persecution and came here and made America their home.
Okay. All right. Now, in your book, let's get into the book. Um,
Okay.
Something I thought. Now, as a meet the author, I generally like to interview people that I like the book, etc. But if I come across something that I disagree with, please don't take it personally. It's just something that I would disagree with, and we'll go from there. But I
Okay.
thought that finding a husband is a business. And love seemed to be secondary. It just seemed like with Charity, the major character,
Hmm.
that just seemed to be something that was more important. How would you comment on that?
Well, um, that's part of her character arc from a previous book.
Okay.
So yeah, but I mean, that's also interesting. I really like that question. What happened in the series before in Birch Creek series, it was about mail order brides, and so she was one that came looking for a husband, and she really it getting married is very important in the Amish community, again, to be fruitful and multiply, but
Mm.
because their society is so dependent on community and interpersonal relationships in order to exist and survive, um, it is a big deal finding a husband. And if you're awkward, Charity actually has a redemption arc in this because she's a horrible person in the previous book. And so she has a slight redemption arc here where she goes from, having that lower confidence, being awkward and kind of grating a bit. So that already she's got that against her in finding a husband. But so she had tried different things in the previous book, and that's why she decided she was going to go ahead and look at it from a logical standpoint this time. Um, and I think there also was a little bit of "I'll show you I can get a husband"
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
when it came to her aunts.
When it What are some, for people who are not familiar with this type of book or this type of
Hmm.
subject, what are some typical Amish behaviors that the reader should look for or notice in the book? Anything in particular that you would say, this is what I hope you'll notice?
Okay. Let's see. I think I might answer that a little different if I
Okay,
may.
sure, certainly.
I'm going to talk about what readers tell me they like to see in Amish books
Oh, okay.
in the genre. Because for me, just to give you a little bit straighter answer on that, I just want readers to be entertained.
Mhm.
And that is I mean, I know that sounds like a very general thing, but it's incredibly important to me if somebody's going to pick up one of my books that they feel like that they've been entertained. If they get something a little deeper out of it, that's a bonus. So for me, that's my goal. But for readers who love Amish fiction, the number one things they say is the faith in the community, seeing a group of people live out their faith. The second thing is the community. It's especially we're in a society where we're disconnected because a lot of the socializing we do is through electronics, which I
Mhm.
think, like, this allows us to have a nice conversation, and it's easy to schedule and things like that. But there's also we're losing some of that face-to-face stuff in the Amish community that's incredibly important. So they like the community. They love the nostalgia of not having cars and not using phones, and except if you have a business. And also food. That's huge. That is huge. It's food is a big thing. They like reading about what the characters eat. And I kind of liken it back to when I was a kid. I was a big Little House on the Prairie
Hmm.
series reader. And my favorite one book was Farmer Boy because she talked about the food because Almanzo was a big eater as a kid.
Okay.
So readers really enjoy that. So those are things that I try to really play up in my books when I write these stories is are all those things, faith, community, food, um, and I think I said a different one, but whatever. Those are the main
Okay.
things.
Okay. Thank you for letting me know that because I think it'll benefit any person who's not familiar with this type of
Hmm.
genre. And so thank you for answering that. Something I want to disagree with, but I mean this in a nice way.
Oh, it's fine.
I didn't think it was absurd that Charity had a plan on how to get a husband. I like that she went to the library. She's going to solve her problem. I'm going to check out these books. I'm going to come up with this outline. So I didn't think it was absurd at all. Although dealing with human beings, can't necessarily have a plan to do something. But I didn't think it was absurd at all.
Hmm. Well, good. I, when I was writing it as a person who doesn't plan, it was kind
Hmm.
of difficult for me, but it was
Okay.
fun trying to think of the different ways how what would she would write down, what would she be researching and things like that. But you have a point, and it's a point that I thought of and realized too is that you can't plan your life out. God's plans and God's ways are not our own. So that's what she realized. She had to set aside all these preconceived notions that she had and just be yourself. Be
Mhm.
herself.
Mhm. I don't know if you answered this question. I am seriously listening to you, but it
Oh
seems
no.
like singing. Well, you gave me a list of things what to look for in
Sorry.
terms of, but that's okay.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
singing seems to be an Amish thing. Do the Amish do a lot of singing in groups and Friday
Hmm.
nights, that sort of thing? Because I just noticed that you bring that theme up in the book. Uh, Comment on it, if you will.
Yeah. So singings are, and they do sing a lot, and singings
Mhm.
are a way for the youth to get together.
Mhm.
They don't typically date like we do, so
Okay.
they have a youth group within their church, which is typically also called a district. And so on a Sunday evening, they'll get together and they'll sing hymns, and then they'll socialize, and then maybe a young man might want to take a young woman home that he's interested in. It's all very sweet and nostalgic. So, but singing is also very important in other ways. They sing a lot of hymns during services before the sermon. Like I want to say almost an hour. Their church services are like 3 hours long.
Wow.
So yeah, so they'll do singing, and their singing is kind of like a Gregorian chant because they don't have musical
Oh,
instruments.
okay.
Yeah. And also singing in schools is important. I went and visited my friend, her one of her kids. She had several kids. Well, I got a chance to go to their school and observe that. For as a former special education teacher, that was so exciting. I loved it. And at the end of my visit, they all sang to me. And then, yeah, so singing is a big, big part of, and it's really, it's fun to listen to, and they'll let you join in. So,
Well, then I did pick on a good theme that you wanted to
oh
bring
yeah,
up. So okay, all right,
yeah,
right,
yeah, yeah.
yeah. Now, buggy making is important in this book. How did you research that so that it sounds believable to people who make buggies or have to use them?
Hmm. the internet is an amazing place. It is awesome. And so, believe it or not, I researched making it off on the internet. There are sites out there that talk about buggy making. I researched the parts and I mean, I could not tell you how to make a buggy to save my life, but I gathered enough information that I could kind of hang the story on
Okay.
it to
All
make
right.
it believable.
Mm.
I tend not to go in too much detail when I do things like that because I'm not an expert really at anything.
Okay.
So I try not to get too bogged down in that because I don't really want to be wrong. But yeah, I found all my information on the internet. It
Okay.
was amazing.
Okay. Well, it's brought up
Very
it.
helpful.
it's brought up in the book enough to whet your appetite, but not so much that it becomes what minutia and or boring
Hmm.
or so detailed. But I just thought I wanted to comment on that because I thought it's enough that, hey, does she know how to make a buggy? And so you've answered the question.
No, 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 no. But I really, I thought it was very
Okay.
interesting. I did enjoy finding out how they're constructed.
Okay. Gender roles are important, it seems like, in the Amish community. I noticed, like, for instance,
Hmm.
like women serve the men lemonade. And I know that's a little thing, but comment on gender roles, at least in Amish. They're very specific, it seems to me, at least based on your books.
Yeah, yeah. They are. They follow the biblical outline of how of church, and then the man and the woman and the children. And so because of how their society is constructed, the man is the one that has the job and works outside the home, and the women, not that they don't work outside the home,
Mhm.
they do, but typically if they get married and they start having children, they stay home. And so they take care of the family and everything that entails that, all the housekeeping, while the man is out, doing the work. And that can mean being at home on the farm, or it can mean going to a construction job, building a buggy. And so following that is a big part of their faith. However, you do see some cross, in
Okay.
real life, you see some, there's a man that could be a better baker than his wife and enjoys
Ah,
baking. And there's a
yes.
woman, I wrote a book several years ago where the woman was a mechanic. She actually fixed wringer washers, and so she actually went outside of the gender role in her job, and she had some pushback on that. Um, but yeah, that it's how their entire society is based.
Mhm. One thing, let's going back to the characters in your novel. I
Hmm.
noticed that towards the end of the novel, or at least I did, Charity took responsibility in terms of helping Priscilla and the baby, whereas a few pages later, Jesse wouldn't take responsibility for the ad. And I just thought, good, because she you don't write about her negatively, but she is a character that's kind of hard to like at times. And I
Hmm.
thought, good for her. She takes responsibility, and Jesse comes across as being this really nice guy that everybody likes, but he doesn't take responsibility for placing that wretched ad. And so, could you
Hmm.
comment on that? I thought it was good that
Yes.
he gets criticism, or at least I wanted to slug him.
Yeah. Well, and so that I'm glad that you noticed that, because that was definitely my intent, was that, being that great guy, every, easygoing guy, charming, whatever you want to call it. But yet when it comes to being mature and taking responsibility, he didn't want to do it until he ended up realizing that he needed to do it, and that was part of his character growth there. And I think we all have times in our lives when we're young or not so young, where we're like, yeah, I don't really want to own up to that. I don't want to fess up to that. Doing the hard thing can be hard. So I did want to show that, this guy that didn't think, he thought he was going to get away with it and wouldn't have to worry about it. It came back on him, and in order for him to move on and to grow, he needed to take
Uh,
responsibility.
uh, well, Kathleen, this has been a pleasure interviewing you. If the people that watch this video uh, want to contact you, are you in social media?
I am. If you go to my website, kathleenfuller.com, I've got my social media links there. I'm on Instagram. That's primarily where I'm at right now.
Okay.
It goes to Facebook, but I'm rarely on Facebook. The best way, if you want to reach me, though, is you can sign up for my newsletter there. And I have a contact form where my email's at.
Mhm.
And on my website, you can find my books. You can find out where you can get them, more information about them, what they're about,
Oh,
etc.
okay, good.
My newsletter, I do a giveaway every month of a book,
Okay.
and crochet is my hobby. So you also get like a little crochet gift. So
Okay.
anybody who wants to sign up for that, November's coming, or it's
Okay.
here. The November newsletter's coming. So.
Yeah, because we want you to sell books and we want people to read your books. So good. I'm glad you're on social media. That seems to be the way people are. And I'm sure they could maybe find it through maybe Amazon or Barnes and Noble, that sort of thing
Yes.
too. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us today. If you're interested in reading the Courtship Plan, you can check it out from the library or purchase it wherever books are sold. Also, you can find more information at kathleenfuller.com or at our website, nlrlibrary.org. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time. Have a great day, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.